in the middle of all this doom and gloom and what's reflected in the papers and what's making the headlines and what people like us are purveying to you, we're kind to you, all this doom and gloom this morning, but trying not to take it too seriously. Claire Purcell and GBNEWS senior political commentator, Mr. Nigel Nelson. I do think I have to keep mentioning that you two are romantically entwined because I just could not... It's interesting. There's never a sort of tension between them or anything
Despite
like that.
political differences as well, you know.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see in this day and age.
Wonderful to see.
Right, where should we start? Nigel, should we start with you? British Gas is making a huge profit.
800 million, yes.
No
So look, I think
surprise.
they need some more money. What?
They should increase bills. I know what would help them.
Yes.
Well, they're certainly getting it. The 800 million is
That's nearly £1 billion.
nearly £1 billion. That compares to 72 million in 2022. And this is British Gas parent company Centrica that makes the money. Largely, it's clawing back sort of money from customers who owe them stuff, but it's still profit. These are public services. So, I mean, my view politically, Claire will disagree with me on this, is that public services should be in public control. And there shouldn't be a profit motive. The whole thing is they should provide the service.
Should be a service. The clue's in the title.
Yes.
Service.
Yes.
Like the postal service.
Exactly.
The police service.
Yes.
The prison service.
All in public control.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And so the idea that this money goes into the hands of shareholders when it really should be going into providing something for customers. So if this money would actually take the bill down, that'd be great. I mean, in fairness to Centrica's boss, Chris O'Shea, he says even his £4.5 million annual salary can't be justified. Well, if that can't be justified, perhaps he'd have a look at his profits and say, but can that be justified?
Well, Claire, as he said, you will disagree with some of that?
I do indeed, and I think if we're going to talk about nationalising and publicly owned services, then the post office, which is publicly owned, isn't a really good example, is it? Look at the problems that we've just gone through with the post office and bad behaviour. So just making it a publicly owned, making it nationalised doesn't take away those issues. So I'm not going to sit here and say that 800 million is in any way reasonable and bosses taking enormous salaries when people are suffering. I can't, in all wholeheartedness, support that. But I don't support nationalisation. I think that will lead to no investment going back into new technology. It is not going to make problems of gas and electricity expenditure go away. And I think it makes it worse. I think you need that competition in the market. You know, free market conservatism right here. But I do think that we need to start looking at bonuses and enormous salaries for when the rest of the country is suffering. There are people that can't afford to put a radiator or a heater on. They have no hot water because they can't afford their bills, and you see somebody raking it in. I think that we need to sort of start looking at that, especially when they don't fix leaks. They don't put more money into making certain things better in rural areas.
Correct, because it's a service and that's what they should be doing. And you said basically that the post office is in public ownership and therefore that doesn't affect the situation they're in. That's because they apply private criteria to what should be a public service. So it's like it's an unfair playing field, really.
Yes, that's right. Well, I mean, what they were doing, and because of the post office scandal, they were trying to claw money back. And we still don't know quite where that money's gone. So I mean, I agree that just because you've got an industry in public control, it doesn't make it a great industry. What it does do is say, look, we're not here to make a profit. We're here to actually
provide the service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about life expectancy, Claire. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it's also on the front of The Guardian. They're saying the longer you stay in education, the longer your life will be.
Yeah, and I don't think this will come as any surprise, and there'll be children out there who won't like this message whatsoever. But the study that was undertaken looks at life expectancy for children who complete primary, secondary and tertiary education, and have seen an increase. It cuts the risk of death by 2% per year. Now, I think that probably when you start to think about it is quite obvious. The more educated you are, the better your soft social skills become. You're looking at risk and reward, dietary concerns, perhaps where you might move for a job. So there are lots of things involved in this. It isn't just education. It is all of the other things, social skills, learning to be friends, learning to fall out with friends. You know, it's all of those kind of things. I just think it's quite an interesting way of looking at it when there was a debate in Parliament yesterday looking at absenteeism in schools. And it's the one thing that we'd always, and you'll be the same with your children, you must go to school, you have to go to school. But I think the pandemic has also shone a light on the fact that...
The missing generation.
Yeah, there is a missing generation.
Claire, I honestly pinch myself sometimes because school was tough for me. School, well, it was tough. It was, you know, it was hard academically. It was hard and whatever. But the happiest years of my life, I've never once... I mean, yes, there's times you wake up and think, oh, I can't be bothered going in here today, or you would pull a sickie or something like that. But never did I have a fear, oh, my God, it's school today, I've got to go. And I'm very thankful because that seems to be prevalent with so many kids, especially
Well, something like this might actually cut down truancy. I mean, if you're actually telling kids that, provided you go to school, you could actually put 70 days a year on your life. And that's quite a good advert for saying,
especially
hey...
the older you get.
Yes, exactly.
Can we go back to school?
Perhaps we should all go back to school,
I wanted to go back to school. I enjoyed it when I was there. I'd enjoy it again now.
I did go back to school with you, didn't I?
Oh, yeah, you did. We gave a speech at my old school together. Was that a speech or was like a, I don't know what, a workshop?
I think it bored them all to tears anyway.
Speak for yourself.
Whatever it was. Now, let's talk about sitcoms. I think it's very, very important. Last night I watched a whole episode, found it by accident on BBC4, Yes, Prime Minister, and it was just... It's different class. However, you will have noticed on your TV that some TV executives have decided there's no market for sitcoms, you don't do them, or they're not of interest.
Incorrect now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not of interest to older people and whatever it is. But, so I spend all my time watching TV Gold, which Dad's Army, Fools and Horses are on there. One Foot in the Grave... what's the other one? Hyacinth Bucket Bouquet.
Keeping Up Appearances.
Yeah. You know, all these things.
Hello.
They're all very, very good. What happened to them, Claire?
They're deemed to not be popular, which I think flies in the face. Exactly what you've just said. And we're the same. Nigel and I spend a lot of our time sort of binging through box sets of old sitcoms, whether they be American sitcoms or whether they be British. You've got Fawlty Towers, Only Fools and Horses, The Royal Family, and then things like The Big Bang Theory, which was kind of a go-to for us if you didn't know what to watch. But it seems that they've... I don't know if they've fallen out of favour because everybody now feels the need to be a bit more politically correct. You couldn't do quite a lot of... the old, like, hello, I don't think you could ever produce that.
Or are they
today.
just being ditched in favour of the Billions and the Succession and the Yellowstone and these big box sets that are kind of... So many of them, they're all consuming. There's almost no time.
But that are the things
you don't
like
get a laugh from any of those.
Reality series. I mean, we were looking through the TV guide a couple of nights ago, and there was endless kind of police series on, not dramas. These
True
were
crime.
reality. Yeah. Well, these were reality sort of
999.
that kind of stuff. And you're sort of thinking, I mean, the police must spend more time acting than they actually do going out there sort of solving crime.
You mean. Yes.
But at the moment, I think that the only long-running sitcom on British television I can remember is Not Going Out, which is very good.
Yes,
but
yes.
Why are there not more of
Is
those
that Lee
things?
Mack? Is that...
Yeah, that's right. That's Lee Mack, yeah.
Right, let's talk about drinking games. This is in the Times today. The so-called neck nomination, where people drink a pint and then pass on the nomination. Is this what are the Times saying about it all?
Well, this started out from the Wetherspoons drinking game, which was if you use the app, you can send people a pint. If you go onto the app, you can find which Wetherspoons pub they're in, what table, and you can deliver a pint. And it started off as a sort of random act of kindness for people. But, of course, as all of these things do, online sort of challenges come into it. And it became necking a pint and you have to show... the evidence of doing it online, and then you pass on the nomination, and then somebody is deemed to be the winner. Now, we all can see that that was going to not work because it's irresponsible. Let's put the disclaimer out there to start drinking heavily and necking pints. And I think it's probably one of those things that started between a small group of friends, but people have died by doing this. with the alcohol intake. So what started off as a sort of random act of kindness and was quite sweet, and there was a whole Facebook page set up showing, you know, Gran and Granny that were out for an evening and they were sent a glass of wine or a pint of bitter or whatever it was, and that was lovely. But of course, we take things too far, and you start bringing drinking competitions into it. I think it needs to be sort of wound up, and I think Wetherspoons really need to step in a little bit and start behaving a bit better.
In the minute that's left to us, Nigel, we're talking about sweet and bitterness there. Our perception of bitterness. Tea with what added to it?
Salt.
Why?
Well, according to the Americans are now telling us how to make a cup of tea. But according to an American professor, Michelle Franke, she's saying that if you add a bit of salt, it takes the bitterness out. You won't taste the salt. Also, some warm milk should go in there. That'll actually make your tea an awful lot better. It just seems strange that America, where all the tea I've had in America has been absolutely
dire.
foul.
Yeah.
So the fact that they've now got a professor telling us how to do it.
Yes.
Not bad going.
I think anyone who's accidentally added salt to their tea at the breakfast table or whatever may well disagree with that analysis there. Claire and Nigel,
Thank you.
Going to be back in 45 minutes' time. Right now, let's get the weather picture. Good morning, Alex.